Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're exploring something really quite vast. It feels like a whole online textile library, built from the source material you sent us.
It really is comprehensive.
Yeah, and it's not just, a random list. It seems very structured, designed to get you informed about textiles fast.
That's the idea.
So our mission today is to kind of map this library out together. Understand how it's organized, pull out some interesting bits, think of it as getting the layout, maybe spotting some treasure.
Sounds good. It's quite a landscape.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Well, first thing you notice navigating this map is how incredibly broad and connected the textile world is. And like you said, the structure is very logical. It seems to follow the textile process itself, starting right at the source.
Right, the absolute basics. So the library kicks off with the core components, fibers and yarns.
Exactly. And this is where the sheer diversity hits you. The library lists just a massive range of fibers. It breaks them down, starting with natural ones. You've got the regulars, cotton, silk, wool.
Sure, the ones everyone knows.
Right, but then it goes into less common natural options.
Less common, like, what are we talking about?
Well, the source material mentions things like abaca. It's a type of banana fiber, actually. Coir, from coconuts, kapok.
What?
But then it gets really granular. It lists fibers like Angora rabbit, camel, alpaca, and even vicuña and spider silk are in there.
Spider silk.
Yeah.
Seriously, that definitely goes beyond your average sweater.
It really does. It shows the depth. Covering materials may be used in very niche or high-tech applications.
So what about the other side? The engineered fibers.
Just as thorough. The library sources seem to cover, well, everything. The big names like polyester, nylon, but also bio-based stuff like PLA.
PLA, polylactic acid.
That's the one. The sources explain it's biodegradable, and then you get into really advanced materials, carbon fiber, graphene fiber.
Graphene fiber, wow. So basically, if you're curious about any kind of fiber, ancient wool, or like futuristic graphene, this library section is the place to start.
That seems to be the goal. And for a lot of them, it's not just a name. The library points to specific articles, sometimes videos showing how they're processed, maybe even webinars.
So different ways to learn depending on what you need.
Exactly. Different levels of detail.
Okay, so you've got the fibers. Logically, the next step is making them into something usable. Yarn.
Which the library maps out nicely in the yarn section. It details different types: compact yarn, fancy yarn for effects, technical yarns for specific functions.
Right.
And crucially, it looks like it distinguishes between basic spinning methods like ring spun versus open end. The sources probably explain, how those affect the yarn's quality and how fast you can make it.
So it's not just a list, it gives you hints about the why. And I see mentions of lectures here too.
Yes, the structure points towards expert input. It notes lectures from specific professors like Professor Ravi Chattopadhyay. It seems to connect you right to academic insights on yarn tech.
Okay, fibers, then yarns. That makes sense. The next big stage must be actually creating the fabric surface itself.
That leads us straight into fabric creation processes. And the library, again, logically, splits this into the main methods: weaving, knitting, and non-woven technologies.
The classic three.
Pretty much. And for each one, it's not just a definition. The sources indicate articles explaining the techniques, maybe even courses if you want to learn the basics.
Right, get the stuff.
Yeah, and insights into the machinery, different videos showing how it all works. For example, under weaving, there's a specific mention, Documa Reniorum, which sounds like learning weaving, suggests hands-on educational content.
And I noticed specific fabric types get called out too, like carpet and denim under weaving.
Good spot. Yes, it shows you can dive deeper into how those particular fabrics are made, which are obviously quite different. Same for knitting. It points to lectures by experts like Prof. Bipin Kumar offering detailed knowledge there.
Okay, so you've woven or knitted your basic fabric, but it's usually pretty plain at that point, right? Gray goods.
Often, yes. Which brings us neatly to the finishing processes. This section seems to cover everything that happens after the fabric is formed. So, pre-treatment to clean it up, dyeing for color, printing for patterns, and functional finishes for special properties.
This is where the fabric gets its final personality, its look and feel and performance.
Exactly. And the resources listed here reflect that it's a complex stage. You've got articles, maybe books, info on the chemical companies involved.
Right, the ones making the dyes and finishes.
And the machinery makers, too. Plus, it seems to list quite a few lectures from academics Professor V. Sivalingam, Dose, Dr. Gökhan Kosak, others covering the chemistry and the applications.
Seems very thorough. Any specific call-outs within finishing?
Well, the mention of a natural dyes lecture is interesting. It shows the library isn't just focused on industrial chemistry, but also covers traditional or, maybe more eco-focused techniques.
That's a good balance. All right, so we've journeyed from raw fiber through spinning, making the fabric, and then finishing it. What's next in this library's world?
The structure then broadens out. It moves towards the final products and the whole industry surrounding them. So, sections on apparel, fashion, and the business side.
Right, apparel and fashion, that's probably what pops into most people's heads when they hear textiles.
It's definitely the most visible part for consumers. And the library seems rich here. Articles, books, lectures, lots of video content. What's cool is the variety listed.
Like what?
Well, you've got technical things like sportswear articles, but also cultural explorations like traditional clothing around the world.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. Like a deep dive within the deep dive.
Could be. And it even notes really specific intersections like fashion and football, shows how textiles weave into, well, everything.
Huh. Never thought about fashion and football together.
Me neither, but it's listed. And beyond the creative, it covers practical stuff like fashion supply chain videos and historical context with resources like The Ultimate Fashion History by Professor Amanda Hillay.
So it really does seem to track the whole life cycle, designed through history and supply chains.
That's the impression. And there's a dedicated textile and fashion design category mentioned, plus resources on the vital sales and marketing side. How it all gets sold.
Makes sense. Okay, so beyond that main fashion pipeline, the library branches out again into more specialized stuff.
Absolutely. And this is where you really see the interdisciplinary nature. There's a big section on quality.
Ah, crucial.
Totally. The sources listed cover testing methods for everything fiber, yarn, fabric, the final garment. It highlights the science behind making sure textiles actually work.
Quality control is key. What about the really cutting-edge areas? Innovation.
Yep, dedicated sections for smart textiles and technical textiles. Smart textiles, the sources would likely explain, are about integrating maybe sensors for health monitoring or fabrics that change temperature.
Clothes that think, almost.
Kind of. And technical textiles covers uses beyond clothing. The library lists subcategories like agro-textiles.
For farm.
Yeah, things like crop covers or ground stabilization. Then automotive textiles, upholstery, airbags, tires. Medical textiles, think implants, bandages, surgical gowns, and protective textiles for firefighters, military, etc.
Wow. So textiles are in our cars, hospitals, fields, not just our closets.
Exactly what the library structure emphasizes. And it points to expert lectures here too, like Professor Upper Bidas, showing there's deep knowledge available on these specialized topics.
And there's another topic that's just huge today, sustainability.
A major focus, it seems. The library gathers articles, reports, videos on sustainability in textiles. And very importantly, there's a specific related category on greenwashing.
Oh, that's useful, helping you spot fake claims.
Presumably. The sources there would likely offer guidance on identifying misleading environmental marketing. That's pretty critical for anyone trying to make informed choices today.
Incredibly relevant. It also seems to look backwards into history.
It does, quite deeply. Sections on textile archaeology and textile and fashion history. Resources listed include videos on archaeological finds.
So you can see ancient fabrics.
Potentially, yes. It provides that tangible link to the past, which is a fascinating contrast to, say, smart textiles.
From burial shrouds to smart shirts.
Yeah.
What other interesting corners are on this map?
Well, there are sections like textile art for the creative expression side, how it's made videos, always popular for understanding processes visually.
Yeah, I like those.
Me too. And documentaries are mentioned, like one called Almek Anadolu, suggesting cultural stories. Then there's innovations and even cartoons and animations related to textiles.
Cartoons. Okay, that shows real breadth.
It really does.
Yeah.
It suggests the library aims to engage on multiple levels, not just purely technical.
So it feels like it's for everyone. Academics, industry folks, designers, artists, maybe even just someone curious. What about tools specifically for learning or connecting?
Yeah, the library structure includes dedicated sections for that, formal courses, recorded lectures, books, lists of educational institutions. There's even a glossary of textile terms.
Glossary would be handy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it mentions AI-generated article overviews, podcast videos.
Whoa, AI summarizing textile research. That's pretty meta.
Isn't it? Shows the library is embracing new tech for information delivery. And then there are the industry connections.
Like directories.
Extensive ones. Lists of manufacturers and suppliers for fibers, yarn, fabrics, chemicals, machinery. Lists of associations, museums. It even mentions a 360-degree virtual tour for one museum.
Cool, so you can visit from anywhere.
Seems like it. Plus an exhibitions and events calendar, access to conference videos, webinars, forums. It looks like a real hub for connecting with the industry.
A gateway to the whole ecosystem.
Exactly. And things like the specific series, Textile with Alberto, suggest there might be ongoing, unique content streams within it too. Looking at this whole structure, what's truly fascinating is just the sheer scope and depth curated here. It's not just a random pile of links, it's a, well, deliberately constructed universe.
Right.
Covering materials, science, engineering, history, art, business, sustainability, and all that cutting-edge technology we talked about.
It really drives home that textiles are so much more than just making cloth. It's understanding its entire journey and impact.
Precisely. And the way it offers multiple formats, articles if you need deep detail, videos for seeing things, lectures for expert takes, notes for quick facts. It caters to different ways people learn.
Yeah, you can pick your path.
And the structure itself, that logical flow, it feels designed to guide you, to stop you feeling overwhelmed by just how much information is out there.
So what does this all mean when you lay it out like this?
I think it reveals just how vibrant and deeply interconnected the whole field of textiles is, mapping it from the sort of fiber level all the way through global supply chains, ancient artifacts, and future tech like smart fabrics and AI summaries. This library really challenges us.
Challenges us how?
To see textiles not just as stuff we wear, but as fundamental to human history, to technology, culture, and definitely to our collective future. Considering this whole spectrum from archaeology to AI, how does seeing it all organized like this maybe expand your understanding of what the world of textiles even means today?